today's short meditation, we'll be looking into 1 Kings chapter 8 verses 54 to 61. As we see into these portions, we see it is about Solomon's benediction, where he gives his conclusions about the dedication of the temple. And before we see how he blesses the Lord, in the next chapters we see how God appears to Solomon. Especially in this portion where Solomon is giving his dedication to the Lord's temple, he talks a lot, but I would like to focus on especially one verse, which is verse 56. Before we get into this verse, I'd like to share a small story. We see when once a man went for a walk in a very dense forest, and in that forest easily people could get lost. He has gone many times, and one time when he went into this dense forest, he was walking for a very long time. And after he decided it is to better check in his compass which direction he's going, because he was sure of which way he was going. But just for little assurance, he wanted to check his compass. And when he checked his compass, to his surprise, the compass showed he was going to the west. But actually he has to go to the east. But he was going to the west. And he was surprised that he was going in the wrong way. And he thought he was going in the right way. And in his anger, he thought of throwing away his compass, because he thought his compass might be broken, because he was so sure that he was in the right way. But when he checked his compass, it was showing in the wrong direction. And it actually said west, not east. And with lot of disgust, he wanted to throw his compass, but before he threw, he kind of stopped and said, till now, his compass hasn't showed the wrong direction. So he thought, oh, maybe let me just depend on this compass, because it was getting late at night and late at evening. So before it gets dark, he has to get out of that forest. And with his full of disappointments and disgust, he thought, okay, let him follow the compass. And as he followed the compass, eventually he found his way out of the forest and he reached home safely. I told this because when here we see in this chapter, we see how Solomon is talking about God's promises and how God has not failed. And especially in verse 56, he says, not one word has failed of all his good promises, which he spoke by Moses his servant. We can compare this story here to God. Here we see how Solomon is telling the congregation of Israel that not even one word of God has not failed of all the good promises. And that assurance still stands. And we see what God promises, he performs it, and his instructions are always trustworthy. And he will never lead us astray, as he never led Israel to go astray. And if we think like this man who went into the forest, if we think highly of our own judgment, of our own discernment, rather than relying on God and God's words, we may be in trouble or we may be going astray. Sometimes it is better to trust and rely on God and his word, because his word never failed us and it will never fail us and they will never will. And when even we may be so sure that we are sometimes our own judgment or sometimes our own thinking is quite right. We may be thinking we are in the right place, we may be doing the right thing, we may be thinking the right thing, but in the reality we may be on the wrong place, just like this man who was in the wrong way. And at least he had the compass, and it is like for us the same. Right now we are not without any guidance. We have this assurance of his word, which has never failed. We may fail sometimes, our judgment, our thinking sometimes may fail, but his word never fails. So let us depend on this word and let us take it as a compass in our day-to-day life, and let us depend on his sure word and on God who never failed us. And the Bible that we have each and every day, it always points us the right direction. And let us try to be on the right direction and depend on it.